Hello and welcome to Ladue Schools Today, the district communication program for the Ladue School District in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm your host, Don Goble. Now, upon taking the helm as the district superintendent in July of 2013, Dr. Donna Jahnke began coordinating and a revitalization of the district's strategic plan. A little more than 3 years later, with many of the initiatives outlined in that plan either complete or well incorporated into the district's ongoing efforts, Dr. Jahnke is leading a second effort to set the course for how the district will focus its time and energy over the next several years. Dr. Jahnke is here to talk to us today about what has been accomplished in the district's strategic plan and what the process is for determining how we will move forward. So, Dr. Jahnke, welcome back to the show.
Thank
How are you?
I'm great. It's good to be here.
How's the year going so far?
Fantastic. We're off to a great start.
Well, tell us a little bit about what some of the best things that have been happening and some of the amazing accomplishments of the goals you set forth years ago.
Right.
And now we've kind of seen them through fruition.
Right. We have made tremendous strides in the last 3 years. There's no question about that. And it's been an exciting process. It really has been. We, with our current strategic plan that we initiated in 2013, have updated our early childhood center and allowed more access for students. We implemented a limitless learning initiative, putting iPads in the hands of our high school students and expanding their opportunity to use technology as a tool here at the high school. We also did a technology upgrade across the district. We improved our math program by doing a really deep look at our curriculum and our instructional practices. We also addressed our class size. We looked at how many students we had in our classroom, and we changed our policy, and so we have a reduction in the number of students in many of our classrooms. And we also worked on our high school schedule. We looked at our achieving students, and we looked at students that needed more support, and we completely changed the way that we provide instruction here, moving from a block to a modified block system, and that's been a great process as well. Probably one of the biggest things is the acquisition of the money through our community and Prop R in order to rebuild our high school. So we're in the process right now of rebuilding our academic spaces and really improving the learning spaces for all of our students here.
So talk a little bit about the good and the bad, the plans that go into place. We've had a lot of good, but what have been some of the challenges and what have been some of the best things that we've seen from all of these goals that we set forth?
Well, I think when you look at big plans, really the high school project is probably one of the plans that will impact every student that comes through our school system. I mean, if you think about rebuilding science spaces, academic spaces across the board, we're really going to be able to provide more programs and more opportunities for students here at the high school with the new structure, with the facility.
Right.
So that's really been a phenomenal thing. In addition to that, our bond referendum allows us to do upgrades in technology infrastructure throughout our school system, upgrades in security and safety as well. So those are all things that are going to make our school system better and safer. And so that's been great. Of course, as we're putting all these things into place, it's really important for us to begin to plan for the future as well.
Right.
So one of the things that we're doing right now is really looking at revitalizing, as you mentioned earlier, our strategic plan so that we can begin planning for the next 3 to 5 years and those initiatives that we want to really prioritize so that we can put our time, our energy, and our resources into some priority key initiatives.
And I know one of the things that the topics that comes up is once we move forward towards our plan and we've accomplished a lot, will part of that future strategic plan look at some of the things we've already accomplished, such as class size, maybe based upon feedback or the course or the scheduling or any of those other things that you've talked about? Will those be a part of continued discussion, or are those now over and done with?
Absolutely. I think one of the things you always do when you put a new initiative into place is you measure whether or not it's working, and then you make adjustments along the way. And one of the things we did this summer in preparation for the revitalization of the strategic plan this year is really evaluate each of those priority initiatives and see where we are. So there are some things that we've accomplished. Class size is a good example. We've revamped our policy and we feel like it's working well. But in mathematics and the sciences and some other areas where we're looking deeply at our curriculum, those are things that are going to continue. You know, we have a big initiative in our school system right now on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. So while we've done this deep look at math, we've selected some new programming materials, K through 4, we've looked at instructional practices, K through 12, we're going to be doing that same work in science as we move forward, which will mesh very well into that STEM focus that we want with that integration of math and science together. So I think what happens is the strategic pieces of the strategic plan that we evaluated this summer and felt like needed to continue in this next plan as an evolution will remain, and then we will look forward at some other things that we want to make sure that we continue to make a priority in the future.
Fantastic. So that's a good segue. Let's talk a little bit about what specifically what happens next as we look at programs that we may continue, like you mentioned, or something that's brand new, or some other initiatives that you want to kind of tackle moving forward the next however many years. So talk a little bit specifically about what happens next.
Well, let me say first that we are a very high achieving school district. We do great things for students across the board, and that we enjoy a wonderful population of students who do quite well in our system. But I think what's important and what sets Ladue apart is the fact that we are always trying to continuously improve. Even though we're doing things well, we want to get better. There are parts of our population that are not as successful as we want them to be. We need to make sure that we're putting programs and practices in place that really do address every student every day. So this strategic planning process that we'll use over the course of the next year is a bit of a streamlined process, but it allows an opportunity for all of our stakeholders to provide some input into the plan that we're creating. So this fall, we started with a survey of our parents, of our students, and of our staff members to really talk a little bit about what are we doing well, where are some areas we need to focus, what do we need to concentrate on, and we just received that survey data, and we're in the process of analyzing that right now. A follow-up to the survey data then is going to be a series of focus groups, again, engaging our stakeholders to say, what are the things that we're really doing well that we want to continue to perpetuate, and what are some areas that we really need to look at and focus on as we build these key initiatives. Right. So that's going to happen over the course of the next couple of months.
I think one of the things I've heard in the community since your time as superintendent is that you really have involved a lot of different stakeholders. I mean, anyone that you can imagine asking for opinion. So what kind of feedback have you gotten? Because that's kind of the process we went through before, and now we're going right back through it again because it was successful. So what kind of feedback have you received from parents, community members, students, faculty who have been involved in some of these decisions?
The feedback has been very positive, but it's also been very purposeful. When you talk about ongoing improvement, it can't just be about what do we think we should do next and let's compliment ourselves for what we've already done. It needs to be about really listening to the people who are involved in the school system and taking all of those ideas and figuring out where there are themes and areas where everyone feels like we need a bit of an improvement, and then building a plan on making that better. And I would go back and say that I really feel like we're a great school system, but part of the reason we're great is because we're always looking at how we can make things better. And I think that's a key piece of a successful school district.
So tell me about the priority initiatives and the whole process of deciding, well, what takes priority? Because you'll get this information now back from the survey, and you'll look through it all, and you have ideas of your own, and with the board you've discussed as well.
Right.
So the priority initiatives, what's that process like, kind of unfolding that and figuring out what happens?
Right. So we'll get feedback from the surveys and from the focus groups, and all of that information will then go to a strategic planning leadership group, which involves staff members, administrators, and board members, and we'll look at all that feedback and divide that feedback into 4 different areas: finance, facilities, technology, and curriculum and instruction. We'll take that feedback then and give it to our 4 board advisory committees, which are those 4 areas. And the board advisories also are another opportunity for a variety of stakeholders to provide input, because we have community members, parents, and staff members, and board members on those committees. So again, it's another opportunity to provide input. So they'll take that feedback from the surveys and from the focus groups, in addition to whatever the departments are planning in terms of some of the things that have come up out of curriculum and instruction, for example, that they really want to incorporate into the plan. And they will take all of that information and they will outline priorities from their particular area, which will then go back to the strategic planning leadership team, and they will take all of those initiatives, all of those priorities in curriculum and instruction, again, in finance, in facilities, and in technology, and that leadership team then will take the priorities from those board advisory committees and build the plan. It'll be a draft plan, which will go to the board in public in the spring, and the board members then will sift through those priorities and make a decision about what actually will be our focus areas for the next 3 to 5 years. We hope that that plan then will be approved by the board sometime in June.
That was my next question, was timeline. So we're looking at really compiling and identifying the needs this year and then continuing, because we're really only in year 3 from that original one. So you just said 3 to 5. So we have a few more years left still to develop that, but looking forward then we probably will kind of formulate all of those this year.
That's right.
And then moving forward.
But strategic planning should be an evolution.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be, we're going to do this plan and then we're going to do that plan.
Right.
It ought to be, you initiate a plan and you put those priority initiatives into action. And once some of those start to fall off the books, so to speak, then you begin to plan as you're still working. Right. And then, you have a continuous process that really evolves over time. And even though those will be the priority initiatives, and that's where we're really going to focus, again, our resources, there are always things that come up in that time, that period, that 3 to 5 period, that might take priority, that you might say, well, we need to do this as well, or this is something that we need to focus our attention on. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. We put the high school schedule into place this past year. This is our second year for the high school schedule. Right. We're now, as a result of that, looking at the middle school schedule and saying, what do those experience or students need to look like? Mm-hmm. And that's something that's kind of an ongoing, an offshoot of the key priority initiatives in the current strategic plan. So there needs to be a certain amount of structure so you can focus your energy, but there also needs to be enough flexibility in the plan that you can put those things that come along down the pike into place if you feel like they're important.
Right. What else would you like to add? There's a lot happening, very
there
fluid. I know you're excited about a lot of it, but
I am.
What else would you like to add at this point? Because there aren't a lot of definitives. We have some things that we're working towards, but what would you like to mention to the community as far as what you're most excited about right now, or this whole process?
Right now, I go back to the high school project and say this is incredibly exciting for us, because it really was a project that was put into place. It started 2 years ago as part of our strategic planning process. That was a priority, and all of the pieces had to fall in place for us to be able to build this building. So our next 2 years, in terms of continuing the old strategic plan, is going to be about building the best high school that we possibly can for our students and for our staff, and then looking at the campus and really looking at the whole piece, not just the academic pieces, but looking at the athletic pieces down the road and making sure that we have a high school campus that's primed for the 21st century, and I think that's important.
A quick update.
Yes.
Are you happy with how things are going?
Things are moving along pretty smoothly,
Okay.
yes. We had a couple of approvals from the city of Ladue a couple of weeks ago, which
Good.
we're excited about. We're working on a couple more, so we're hoping to, the demolition is complete. We're hoping to get into the ground pretty quickly here, so it's exciting.
It's a good segue, because on our next show we'll have Principal Brad Griffith to tell us all about the specifics of how we've really turned this whole thing around and moving forward. So.
Great.
Thank you very much for your time today.
My pleasure.
Look forward
Thank
to
you.
following these initiatives, and I know we'll have you back to update us.
I would love to come back.
Let us know how they're all unfolding.
That's great.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you so
Dr.
much,
Jahnke.
Don.
All right. And thank you for watching Ladue Schools Today. Make sure to follow our program at any time by going to lhstv.weebly.com and click on the Ladue Schools Today tab. Have a great night.